we were talking a lot about sustainability and crossed energies between federation, city, organizing committee, and it's what it's all about. And the next session is about this federation session, from local to international sport actors as an engine for ecological transition and much more. And this session will be held in partnership with Sport Accord and Lausanne Olympic Capital Foundation. And we are pleased to welcome you on board of this traditional international session. And by the way, the Smart City and Sport is extremely happy to renew its partnership with Sport Accord and will contribute to the City Accord traditional session during the convention to be held in April from the 7th to 11th in Birmingham. This session emphasizes how local and international sports actors can work together to create successful synergies, as we just saw and heard on this beautiful presentation, which drive real change and inspire broader environmental action. And to present this session, I will call our new moderator, Martin Gibbs. He has over 20 years of senior management experience in finance and sport. He specializes in building effective strategies, improving the financial and operational performance and organization, and developing strong external partnership. Welcome, Martin Gibbs.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here after an excellent night out last night. And that was a perfect introduction, pretty much has done my job. And thank you for Lausanne for inviting me to be your moderator this morning. Lausanne, which is my home, and home to Sport Accord, of course. So the purpose of the panel this morning is to look at sport and sport events from different perspectives to see how they can be catalysts for positive change in terms of sustainability. So looking at the different panelists that we've got, we hope to give you the benefit of those different perspectives. So, and the format will be, we'll have a presentation from each of the panelists, and then we'll go on to a bit of a discussion between us, and then I hope we've got some questions from the audience. So in order, from a city perspective, from The Hague Director of Sport, we have Peter van Veen. Then from an event organiser's perspective, we have Arnaud Breton from the Rugby World Cup 2023. And then from the sort of other perspective of the same event, we have Jamie McCown from the International Federation. Jamie is the Sustainability, Diversity and Inclusion Manager for World Rugby. And then from a perspective of an international organisation trying to bring sport and nature and sustainability together, from the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, we've got Jana Tova. And then from a national federation perspective, and we're in their house, we have Viviane Fraisse, who is Head of Sustainability for the French Tennis Federation. So first of all, Peter, can I invite you up? I believe you have some slides and a little video. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Good morning, everybody. In my presentation, I want to take you, I will introduce The Hague, and also I will tell you something about implementing sustainability, our local sustainability policy, EU regulations, national regulations, in our sports policy, and especially in organizing large major sport events. The Hague. In The Hague, we are working hard to improve the United Nations sustainability goals and become climate neutral in 2030. The Hague is the third biggest city in the Netherlands, situated in the west of the country, the seat of a national government, and where also our royal family lives. We are a green city by the sea, with 11 kilometers coastline. On the other hand, The Hague is also the most densely populated city in the Netherlands. with almost 6,500 residents per square kilometer. The city's population, which currently stands at 576,000, is growing by 5,000 residents a year. That means that in 20 years' time, our population will be almost 700,000 residents. And this is taking place within the hard current city boundaries. This growth is a major challenge for our city, because how do we make sure that the growth of the city develops at the same pace as the related quality of life? For example, we need sustainable buildings, clean energy, waste management, an attractive and climate-proof living environment, new mobility solutions, and smart outdoor spaces. Or, from perspective of sport and exercises, how can we enable our sport facilities to keep pace with this growth? In our vision, we do not only respond to our spatial challenges, but also to the social challenges like health and income inequalities, an access-friendly public space, mobility, resilience, and sustainability. Of course, we are responsible for meeting up with these challenges, but we are also asking entrepreneurs and other stakeholders to propose concrete solutions. And we work together with other big cities in the Netherlands, for example, Amsterdam and Rotterdam, to learn from each other. Like most cities in the Netherlands, we have serious sustainability ambitions. We have described them in our sustainability policy document, and many of those ambitions are incorporated and translated in our local policies, such as our land policy, our urban management, our economic policy, our mobility policy, as well, and with respect to sport events, accommodations and facilities. Our city owns and operates many sports facilities, including 6 swimming pools, 16 sports centers, 300 sport fields, as well as an elite top sport venue. Sustainability ranks high on our agenda, and we are taking various measures to improve the sustainability of our sports facilities. For example, we are implementing a new energy-saving building management system, and we have switched from natural gas to heat recovery from sewers in one of our swimming pools. The privately owned facilities, like the many sport canteens of the sport clubs in the city, can apply to our city and the national government for subsidies. These subsidies help them make their facilities more sustainable. In fact, up to almost 100% of the investment in sustainability can be subsidized. Every year, we as a local government make 2 million euros in subsidies available for this, and this year we have made an additional extra 1 million euro available. For all the events in our city, we focus on sustainability through permits and subsidies. Every event organizer in The Hague, whether it's a music, a cultural or sport event, must have a permit in which several sustainability measures are prescribed. Of course, we also work on sustainability ourselves in terms of events. We already implemented physical measures to improve sustainability at all our event locations in the public space. For example, all our major event locations have fixed power supplies. By limiting the use of diesel generators, we reduce carbon emissions by 100,000 kilograms and fine particles by 100 kilograms a year. Diesel generations may only be used as a backup. So, the joint efforts of local authorities, entrepreneurs and event organizers results in optimal sustainability in our city. The approach of the carrot and the stick. Regarding the event organizers, works very good to the permits and to the permits on one side, and the other side the subsidies for sport events. And besides that, we improve the locations while event organizers make their own business operations more sustainable. Finally, I want to talk about our specific experience with the Allianz Sailing World Championships 2023 this year. It's the largest sailing event in the world, bigger than the regular sailing program in the Olympics. We hosted this elite event last summer in Scheveningen. If you want to learn Dutch, try Scheveningen. You might be thinking, Well, this is look. That's a piece of cake in The Hague, because a big city at the sea with a stretched coastline of 11 kilometers. But it was almost impossible task. It was almost an impossible task. And why? I will explain. First of all, the location. The location was a challenge due to its many, often conflicting functions and interests. The World Championships took place in and around Scheveningen, a harbor city district right on the coast, with its traditional fishing industry and a fish market, as well as many other maritime activities. A very busy area. Scheveningen is like a magnet, attracting lots of people keen to do business in the harbor and on the beach, like sailing and surfing schools, catering establishments, beach clubs. People also want to live here, having the benefits of living next to the sea and a beautiful beach and dunes. In the past years, many houses and apartments were built here, and as we speak, we're still building houses and hotels in this area. It's also a popular place for domestic and foreign tourism, particularly in the summer months. And it's during summertime that a lot of residents feel very inconvenienced by the many visitors. And exactly in this period, we hosted the World Championships. Apart from that, Scheveningen is also difficult to access by car. And finally, much of the dune area along the coast is part of the strictly EU-regulated Natura 2000, an area which has very strict emission levels. So organizing this elite major sport event at this location was a huge challenge. The event itself also attracted a number of participants to our city. It was a logistical challenge. For example, 1,250 athletes, 970 sailing boats, 400 coaches and staff, 350 coach boats, 140 organizing boats, and 475 volunteers. As you see on the image, it was a big challenge trying to accumulate all these different interests in a very small and high density area to meet all the requirements of sustainability and to organize the event off the coast without causing too many problems for commercial and recreational shipping. Enough about the characteristics of this area. I will now explain you something about the event itself. First of all, we engaged a professional event organizer called TIC-Sport. It's famous in the Netherlands and also abroad, I think. Together with the Dutch Water Sport Association, TIC signed a contract with World Sailing, the International Federation. The contract included various sustainability measures. For example, they had to make a sustainability plan and they had to appoint a sustainability manager. And besides these managerial and governance actions, we took also specific measures on waste, mobility, energy and fuel. All the sustainability measures you can read on the screen right now. On waste, we installed free water tap points in all our boat parks to prevent single-use plastics, and we offered all the people involved a reusable water bottle. On mobility, we used, wherever possible, local suppliers to minimize the transport distances, and this also meant a direct impulse for our local economy. And secondly, we didn't provide any parking facilities in Scheveningen. Everyone was encouraged to come there by public transport or with bicycle or on feet. We hired almost 400 bikes for the organizers, the athletes, the media and the volunteers. It's typical Dutch way of solving mobility challenges. On energy and fuel, I will give you an example where high-end technology precedes our legislation. For example, we wanted to use a hydrogen generator to power an entire boat park. Unfortunately, the lack of any regulations for this in our country, in our city, meant that our fire department couldn't grant permission for the use of it. Secondly, to mark the racing lanes, we used 26 GPS-controlled smart mark buoys drones, and that reduced a number of ribboats we otherwise had to use for replacing the buoys outside of the coast. So, the Alliance World Championship Sailing shows how we complied with local and national regulations, while at the same time striving to achieve our sustainability goals for the event as well. Together with all our partner stakeholders, and we tried to create an event which went further than just sailing on the sea. We not only wanted to achieve sporting success and deliver an excellent event, but also wanted to embrace sustainability. The World Championships, I think, have proven that under the most challenging circumstances, it's possible to combine sustainability and elite sport events. And to show you this, I will finish with a short video.
Well done, Peter. Thank you very much. Can I just give you the mic? A couple of questions from me. Nice video. I noticed there was some Dutch boats in the lead, quite nicely edited, yeah? A question that sprang out to me that you said with the World Championships, in the host city agreement, there were obligations on you as an LOC to fulfill some sustainability criteria and some measures, which I think is an example of progress, isn't it? Because 10 years ago, we really wouldn't have had that. But clearly you went further. And my question is, what was the impetus? What was driving you to take that contract, but to be more ambitious?
Because as a city, we have high ambitions. So we also in sports, you're part of your local environment, also your local political environment. And you have to try to achieve the maximum also of that. And I think the neighborhood drove us to that. It is very dense populated, a conflicting interest, also Natura 2000, strictly regulated. So we couldn't find small solutions for it. We had to make big steps and big solutions. That was it, yeah.
And in a really densely populated city like that, did you get pushback from things like taking out parking spaces or not providing Does that take some political leadership that needs to cover you?
Yeah, we're used to it. Our policy, according to Scheveningen, is since, I think, 10 years, in terms of mobility, very strictly. If not necessary, go with public transport, go with bike. Also, when there is not an event. On the beach, we organize every year several large events, like beach volleyball, beach soccer, beach-related events, also cultural events. So people who visit the beach are used to go by bike or by public transport. It's more difficult for people who come from outside. And that's communication, and also don't give people permission to park there. The parking places now were used as boat parks, so there was no space for parking, only for boats.
Thanks very much, Peter. Excellent presentation, and thank you for giving the city's perspective. Arno, can I hand over to you from the LOC's perspective? I believe you have a little film to show us.
Yeah.
Great.
One, two, three, four, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning that turns into a beautiful evening, and together make a beautiful life. And if you wanna see, then come along with me, that's right. And if you want a good tomorrow, it's pretty simple, got a partner like to follow. And if you do, you have a future real bright. And it's a combination of consistency. Come on and sing, oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, come on, come on and sing, yeah. Come on, come on, come on and sing. Oh, 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 oh.
Thank you. I don't say nothing for the moment, but thank you. So maybe I will introduce myself just in 2 words. So I'm Arnaud Breton. I'm Impact and Legacy and Rugby Families Director from France 2023. And so thank you for the invitation. I know that the question has been asked before, but is there some rugby fans inside the room? Not a lot, but I hope you had enjoyed, the Rugby World Cup and this incredible experience and atmosphere during Rugby World Cup. So maybe it's more discussions than a presentation, so I'm happy to share what we did with the host cities.
And thank you very much for the video. I think that gives us all a very quick taste of what you did with the event. But perhaps for everybody's benefit, you could run through some of the key elements that you seized hold of.
I think the starting point was during the bid phase. We were, I think, in 2017. And we had the experience on the previous major sporting events, such as Olympic Games or such as in football with Feifei. And we know that in the society, when you host a major sporting event, you have a lot of questions to know why you host this major sporting event. Because of some specific experience, you have bad buzz because of societal, or environmental subject inside this organizer. So during the bid phase, the first thing we did was to try to explain what were our ambition and vision during the Rugby World Cup. Of course, it's easy to organize and to manage something like 48 games during the World Cup, because the French rugby unions organize major sport big games during all the year. We have the top 14, which organize also a lot of games during all the year. So that's why we wanted to do something more than just a competition, more than just a tournament, and to let a positive impact for rugby, of course, we are rugby, for the society, for the planet, and for all the territories, because we organize the Rugby World Cup in 10 host cities and metropolis in France. And so this vision and ambition was integrated in our bid. We presented to World Rugby, and I think it's maybe the first time World Rugby wanted to integrate in the bid phase something in relation with legacy and sustainability. And we tried to have a big and ambitious CSR policy during the World Cup. And this policy was described in terms of 4 pillars. Why these 4 pillars? Because we try to respond to 3 main questions. Firstly, what are the specificity of our country? We were in France, so that's why we wanted to develop some specific element in relation with our country. Second question, what is the link with rugby? Because if we want to do something, we must do something in relation with the sport. And the last point was in relation with our organizing committee and the vision we have. The 4th pillar were, first, to act for sustainable and circular economy. I think you can understand it. It's just because in France we have a big tradition in terms of terroir, that is to say the gastronomy inside our country, a lot of things in relation with that. It's something which is important in rugby when you ask some players or fans. And so we have a big project in relation with that. Second part is the relation with employment and education, because again, it's one of the key priorities in France. It's because the subject of transmission was very important in rugby. You go a pass if you want to move forward in rugby. The third point was in relation with the environment. I think we will speak about it just in a few minutes. And the last point was in relation with the inclusion, because we consider that rugby is a specific sport and that we need to do a lot of things in relation with disabled people, with LGBTQIA+ communities, with isolated people, with when we were at the hospital, something like that.
Interesting that you wrote it into the bid document, and I'm sort of imagining because it's a tremendously big and complex event. So where did the impetus come to make life harder for yourself, if you like, right from the bid stage?
I think it's something that everybody needs to have in mind, because the society have this priority, and that it's something you must do as an organizer. And so you need to see it in all the stakeholders you involve in a Rugby World Cup. Of course, the leaders of the organizing committee for us. Of course, the local authorities. And in France, it was something which was very important to give the proof that we propose a new model of a major sporting event. Also for the companies, for the sponsors, because if you want to create an added value for them, it's not to have just the visibility for them to be as a sponsor, but to engage them inside your CSR policy. And it was the case success of the Rugby World Cup. Of course, it's something that we discussed with the French state, because they were very aware about this subject, and they have a lot of charter they describe and formalize to help the organizer. And so it's not an adventure of only the organizing committee. I forget, sorry, Jamie, I forget also the International Union World Rugby, who were aware about all this subject. And so it's a collective adventure when we speak about the CSR policy, and we need all the help and all the engagement of all stakeholders.
Very good. And that's an interesting link with sponsorship. And if you were to pick one policy that you adopted or were encouraged to adopt by the sponsors, which would it be? Which was the most effective, do you think?
So there is a lot of examples that I can take, sorry, just because when we have some project in relation with CSR, we have one stakeholder, one sponsor with us in each subject. Maybe I just come back on the subject of environment, because we have some stakeholders involved, and I will explain the method we implemented. Firstly, in terms of sustainable and environmental subject, we try to have the figures, the data of the previous major sporting event and specific Rugby World Cup to know what are the level in terms of impact and carbon impact we have. The reality is that we don't have a lot of figures during this this first approach, just because it's something which was new for the organizer to try to understand what are the impact of a major sporting event. Globally speaking, we are around 50,000 tons of carbon when you speak just only on the scope of the organizing committee, which is, of course, we can say that it's big, but it's not so big in comparison of all the impact of a major sporting event. In relation with that, we try to avoid what we can do. It's something which was explained before. We have existing venue, we have existing stadia, we use the IBC of Roland Garros because we didn't want to have a bad impact on the planet when we build something. After, the third step was to limit and to reduce all we can do in relation with the organizing committee. So I can take some example. In terms of food and beverage, I don't know if you were invited during the Rugby World Cup, but in TGP or in hospitality, you have specific menu in relation with all the venue. That is to say that you have a different menu in Lille, in Lyon, in Saint-Étienne, in Marseille, in Nice, in Nantes. So specific menu just to have the element of the terroir in the 50 kilometers around the stadia. Sometimes it was bio, sometimes it was AOC, that is to say with a control name of product. Of course, you can understand that if you are in Bordeaux, you want to test some wine of Bordeaux and not of the other part of France. So it's normal. We try to do it also for general public. You have some specific sandwich inside the venue with a speciality of each city we were. We also, inside the rugby village, inside the fan zone, we integrated rugby villages and a market, a special market with local producers to present the products of the country, of the cities. We have some relationship with an association called Fédération des Banques Alimentaires to recover all the menu and all the sandwiches and all the elements which were not used during a match. At the end, it's something like 91 tons we recover in terms of food, and we redistribute it to specific association, and it's something like 32,000 of menu we propose thanks to this collect. We have a lot of subjects in relation with transportation. I think it's something we can see a changement in comparison to the other major sporting event and other World Cup. I take the example of the teams. We have something like 85% of the movement of the teams which were done by bus and by train. Maybe it's usual for you if you are in France, but you have to have in comparison other sport. I don't speak about football. But it's also a change we did with the discussion with World Rugby, the International Federation, because in the previous guideline, it was something like less than 3 hours you can take the plane. And we do a discussion and a changement, and I think now it's until 5 hours plus 30 minutes you can take the train. And we have some teams, such as Uruguay, who move from Aix-en-Provence to Lille just by train, or you can see maybe the French team who goes to Lille with a train like general spectators. So I have a lot of subjects to explain what we did to limit and to reduce our carbon footprint. But at the end, if you are aware about your sporting event, you have to keep in mind that 85% of the impact of a major sporting event are the spectators. And specific, the transportation of spectators by flight, by plane. We are happy during Rugby World Cup 2023 to host something like 600,000 international spectators. It's a success, and I think it's part of the success of a major sporting event to have a lot of fans from all the countries of the world. But if they come, for example, the New Zealand people, we are quite sure that they will take a plane. They don't have the choice. And we calculated the impact of this third scope of environmental approach, and we calculated that it represented something like 350,000 tons of carbon. Sorry. And we consider that it's the reality and that it's our responsibility to have it in mind. And it's in relation with your question. Firstly, as an organizing committee, we decide to invest a big amount of money to compensate this impact. But also, we ask all our stakeholders to be part of this collective adventure to fight against global warming or climate change. We ask all rugby, firstly, to say, we are happy to host this Rugby World Cup. We want to compensate as possible the impact of the international flight of all the stakeholders, such as public, spectators, media, teams, players, and so forth and so on. And World Rugby accept to invest also the part in relation with media, international guests, and players of teams. We ask also the local authorities. I just said before in France that it was important for our local authorities to present a new model of major sporting event as responsible as possible. And so they invest something like 400,000 € to participate in Year France 2023 to our compensation program. And we ask also sponsors to say, okay, you are the sponsor of this event. If you want to be a model, please come with us to participate to this program. And so I just explained that it's a collective adventure. When we speak about global warming, when we speak about climate change, we can't do something alone. We are just an organizer. I just explained that in 1 year we will be dead. It's the life of an organizing committee. But we consider that we need to do something to move the line, especially in terms of environmental subject. And so, thanks to this approach, we integrate all the scope of the impact of a major sporting event, not only the impact of the organizing committee, but also the impact of fans and all stakeholders. And we launch a sort of public tenders to identify all the projects we will finance and support with a positive impact for the planet. So we don't speak about a compensation program, but at an absorption program, which is a little bit different for specialists. For example, we will invest inside mangrove all around the world because some specialists explain that they have a better impact in terms of planet because they keep and return 10 more CO2, CO2 than just forest, because there is biodiversity impact, something like that, because it's something to fight against the sea flood or something like that. So just to have in mind, it's a collective subject. We do as we can do in terms of rules to avoid, limit, reduce what we can do inside the organizing committee. But after we know that there is an impact, and it's something we need to do collectively.
Arno, thank you very much. As you say, a collective endeavour, which brings us nicely on to the role of the International Federation in this. Jamie, if we can hand over to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you again for the kind invitation to join you here in Roland Garros. For those who were unfortunate enough not to be at the Rugby World Cup final, this is what you might be missing out on. If we just start with this side of the room, we get a Mexican wave going. So when I count to 3, you stand up, you raise your arms, and we'll go across the room, and then we'll come back over this way. And if you do that successfully the first time, I'll continue. Okay, are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Up we get, Mexico, all the way across. Yeah, you've done this before. And back across the room, back across the room, back across. Excellent, excellent. So So Paris didn't quite eat everybody last night. But so Jamie McKeown is my name. I am the Sustainability, Diversity and Inclusion Manager at World Rugby. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about the ecological transition sport, cities, their involvement in it as well. A little talk through of what we've been doing at World Rugby. Arno mentioned the collaborative role that we have, and it's a multi-stakeholder role, and it's a collective team effort. A very brief-ish timeline. In 2009, we awarded the Rugby World Cups for 2015 and 2019, a model that was similarly followed by the IOC when it came to awarding the Paris 24 and the LA 28 games. This gave us a pipeline of events, but it happened at a period before the Vancouver 2010 Winter Games, which really started to set the bar for sustainability in sport, closely followed by the London 2012 Summer Olympic Games. We had already signed host contracts with the English and Japanese federations, so in some way we were a little bit tied in terms of what we could achieve. And Arno referenced that in terms of the challenges in getting carbon reporting figures. However, in 2014, 2015, following those Olympic events, we were able to enhance the sustainability obligations and requirements within our tender documents. So we were able to put more obligations in the contracts in terms of what the host federations would be delivering for us. France, we awarded the tournament in 2023, and as Arno mentioned, this was the first tournament that started to reflect this greater sustainability ambition. From then, we started to develop a bit more. We started to join some of the various different international frameworks. The IOC and the UN Environment had the Clean Seas Initiative to reduce single-use plastics finding their way into water sources and out into the oceans. We joined the Sport for Climate Action framework in 2019. This gave us not just a framework to operate in terms of our climate action, our impact and our objectives, but also access to a network of expertise and peers from other sporting federations. And again, this collaborative effort, we were able to learn and share from each other. Rugby World Cup 2019 was an event, a fantastic success, if you don't mention Typhoon Hagibis, which was the largest and strongest typhoon to hit Japan in over a generation. So that created significant operational challenges for the tournament, but on a human scale, the damage that it caused in Japan was far more serious. But it brought home for us as a sporting federation the challenges that we were facing, not 30, 40, 50 years down the line, but today. We won't mention too much about what happened globally in 2020, but it was also a dry run for what climate change, the impacts it'll have, the real threats to sport as the weather gets hotter, windier, colder, wetter. These are all challenges that we're going to be facing. We took advantage of this slowdown in activity to build into our new strategic plan, which was launched in 2021, a sustainability element. So we recognize that we want to be a responsible federation. We want our partners to be responsible, and equally they have expectations of us to lead, to inspire, and to support. And then in 2023, we've just had, as I said, the Rugby World Cup in France, which was a fantastic success, and congratulations again to Arno and his team for their fantastic work in there. And we also joined the Sport for Nature framework, collaboration with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and Jana will speak to that shortly, as well as UN Environment and the IOC. And again, this is another framework that really supports the work that we're trying to do and helps put structure on our objectives and our ambition. There are, apologies, probably won't be able to see that too well on screen. I'm sure the slides will be shared afterwards. But again, just the key principles around both the Sport for Climate Action framework and the Sport for Nature framework, which really helped us with our environmental sustainability plan. If it's possible to maybe bring the screen fully up so you can see that slide. You don't need to see what I look like. Our environmental sustainability plan said we launched at the beginning of January last year. This followed a period of stakeholder engagement and consultation, staff, senior leadership, our national federations, our partners, media, fans, and importantly, the athletes as well. Through this stakeholder process, 3 clear priority themes came out. Climate action, circular economy, and the protection of the natural environment. So across those, we've identified 4 pillars of activity. The governance of this plan, how we embed it within World Rugby structures. The pillar 2, addressing our direct impacts. We're an organisation, we have offices, we have staff, we have impacts around that. So what can we do to start identifying and reducing those negative impacts? Pillar 3, around delivering and supporting sustainable events. At the time of writing, this was going out to, the intention was that it was going out to host nations of our tournaments. But last year, as some of you might be aware, we changed our business model, and World Rugby is now taking on direct control over the delivery of these events, as opposed to outsourcing them to a national federation. So we reduce the risk and exposure for our national federations, but we take that on ourselves, but it gives a greater level of control, the transfer of knowledge from event to event, and that consistency of delivery. And then pillar 4 is around promoting sustainability, what we're doing, the advocacy role, the education, and the knowledge share. So that pillar 3 that I mentioned, the protection of the natural environment, we've identified there's a number of goals up there. You know, looking at the supply chain is probably the best place to start. Understand where those impacts are. Who are your suppliers? Where are they sourcing their materials? So looking at that supply chain gives you that 360 view. And then you're also looking at the end of life for that, for the item, the good or the service, whatever it is that you're procuring, and finding, okay, does it just go in the bin? Is it that linear model where, you know, you buy it, you use it, you throw it out? Or is it something where you can design the circularity of that product? So when you're finished with it, it has another use. It could be reused, it could be, I mean, recycling is generally the last option. There is another option which then goes into an incinerator to create energy, but I'm not a big fan of that either. If we can find ways to reuse these materials, then that reduces the impact. Looking at items that, you know, forest risk commodities, cocoa, soy, palm oil, looking at the menus that go into our hospitality, our guest programs, making sure there aren't any of the IUCN Red List endangered species featuring on menus as well. We want our tournaments to have a positive impact on the environment. Arno referenced there as well, the carbon absorption program. So again, leaving behind a tangible legacy for the cities, for the communities, for the country, where we've just delivered our event, working with local stakeholders, working with local ecologists to identify areas where rugby can help make a positive difference, working with rugby clubs. You know, sports facilities, outdoor sports facilities in particular, are great sources of, they're mini ecosystems. So looking at ways that you can provide a home for nature and supporting it there. I think cities have a fantastic role and opportunity to play here as well. When dealing with sporting organisations, cities will have their own environmental objectives as well, and how cities can make demands of sporting events and competitions to say, if you want to have an event in our city, these are the criteria that we would like you to follow. And Peter mentioned the carrot and the stick approach. We prefer the carrot, but sometimes the stick is the only thing that will actually get people moving forward on this as well. So I think, again, this is my first time at the Smart Cities and Sports Summit, so it's fantastic to hear some of those presentations yesterday. We heard from Gensler, I think it was, 82% of the public surveyed want to have more green spaces, more natural spaces in the built environment. Just a quick snapshot of some of the activities that we've been involved with. I mean, again, when you have strong leadership and support from the top, that executive buy-in really helps deliver on the strategy, the objectives. So our chairman, Sir Bill Beaumont, over on the left-hand side, a great supporter of what we're doing across the organisation, across our membership as well, communicating publicly on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. You know, around events like World Environment Day on the 5th of June, we'll have communications as well. not just once a year, we try and build it into our communications pipeline. So it's not just a flash in the pan, a once-off example, but it becomes part of the continual narrative across our activities and events. Engaging staff, you'll see in the middle there, it's a picture of the Grand Canal in Dublin. The World Rugby headquarters are just around the corner from there. So engaging some colleagues and staff to go out as part of a national litter collection day. So we put on our yellow jackets, or gilets jaunes for any of our French colleagues, and collected several sacks of refuse from this lovely natural environment. Because taking ownership and being a responsible member of the community. We were very fortunate to win a Climate Action Award through the IOC for innovation for our Rugby World Cup Sevens tournament recently in Cape Town. And from there was a collection of, contaminated waste, effectively, when people aren't recycling properly and there might be ketchup or water or ice and cardboard and it's all mixed up together. The waste was taken, converted down into a resin that was then used in the construction of concrete blocks for social housing in the community. So again, a tangible legacy there. World Bee Day is back in May, and European Professional Club Rugby, EPCR, were having their finals in Dublin, and it was an opportunity to join together with some of our stakeholders, the Irish Rugby Football Union, ourselves, the stadium in Dublin, and again to put out some content around the importance of pollinators. And just a little sneak preview, because we haven't launched it yet, but on the bottom right-hand side, some work that we've been doing, again, in collaboration with the IUCN and the UN Environment and the IOC, to look at ways that we can rugbify. I know that's not entirely a real word, but to put it into a rugby language so that our stakeholders, they won't have time. A lot of these will be volunteer organizations. We can't give them 200-page technical manuals in a language that is foreign to them. So we've tried to take that guidance out there, condense it into a simple 10-point action plan for rugby. And those 10 points, for those familiar with our sport, if it's a 10-point game, then you're way ahead. The chances are the other team need to score at least twice to get even. So phase 1 is called the try. The try is worth 5 points. So these are 5 simple actions that any stakeholder can take: a club, a school, a university, a national federation, to start their journey in terms of rugby and its support for nature. Phase 2 is the try. That's worth 2 more points, 2 more actions around your food, your supply chain, and then the drop goal, 3 final points, knock it out of the park, and that's promoting the action that you've been doing. So that was a bit of a quick fly through. Hopefully it made some sense, but I'll be happy to take any questions from Martin or whoever.
Well done, Jamie. I liked rugbification. Just one from me, and thinking about your point about cities becoming more demanding as we go on. Could you talk a little bit about that, about how as an international federation you're feeling that cities and the hosts are becoming more demanding about your events in terms of their sustainability and their impact?
Yeah, thank you. And I would be somewhat close to the competition side of things, but I wouldn't profess to be an expert either. But all signatories to the Paris Agreement, all the national governments, the countries, the direction, it's coming down from the top, but there's also organically supporters coming from the base who are demanding change from their employers, from their organizations, from society at large, from their commercial partners, their brands, their sports stars as well. What we've been seeing is, a couple of years ago, we started to get more questions coming in from our commercial partners, asking us, what were we doing in terms of social sustainability, environmental sustainability. And we were fortunate that we'd started to develop this. We could see what was coming down the line as well, and the headlines have only been getting bigger and badder. It's front page stuff now. And when that impacts sport, it moves from the back pages of the newspaper to the front pages. But being able to answer those questions and being able to answer them with confidence gives that confidence to partners. So in the same way that our commercial partners are asking us what we're doing, governments will be asking cities. And cities were starting to develop, and some are very advanced in this. And you can see, as Peter was talking about, pushing themselves to challenge themselves to do more. I mean, it's a race, but it's a race that we're all a part of, and we all need to get to the finish line together. Because if anyone's left behind in this, and we can see that, you know, particularly in the likes of the Pacific Islands, who are suffering the most.
Thanks very much. Excellent perspective, and thanks for highlighting all of the policies and how they were wrapped up in the international frameworks, which I think brings us nicely on to Jana, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear organizers, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Jana Janotova, and I work for the International Union of the Conservation of the Nature. I'd like to start with a little personal anecdote. This is not the first time that I'm participating to this event. 5 years ago, I had the privilege to address the delegates of the World Union of Olympic Cities at their General Assembly with a project called the Olympic Festivals. I've been working with my previous employer, the Czech Olympic Committee, on a manual on how to organize the Olympic festivals. And that was actually a gateway to environmental sustainability for me. And 5 years later, I have the great privilege to work on sports and nature, on bringing sports to nature and nature to sport as a full-time job. And that's why I'm very pleased that I can now share some information about the Sports for Nature framework with you. The IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, is the secretariat of this initiative. Before I start, I think I will have a possibility to share video with you. Or not? If not, we can go directly in the subject matter, and maybe we'll come to the video a little bit later. So Sports for Nature as an engine for ecological transition. This is also a title of today's panel. Sports for Nature is a joint initiative. It's a collaborative partnership between the sport and environmental sectors. It brings together partners from the sports sector, the International Olympic Committee, and from the environmental nature sector, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, UN Environmental Program, UN Biodiversity, and this all is supported by a foundation called Sails of Change, which focuses also on sports, biodiversity, and nature. The framework is relatively new, so you might have not yet heard about it. It was launched only at the end of last year. And it was created to tap into the enormous potential that sport has to drive positive change. It is a larger initiative, but the core of this initiative is Sports for Nature framework, which brings together sports organizations as such. But the initiative, the larger one, tries to bring together various stakeholders, including cities, including sponsors, suppliers, and other stakeholders. The aim of the whole initiative is to drive transformative nature-positive action across sports by 2030 and beyond, and enable sport to champion nature and contribute to its protection and restoration. And how we do it, how does the framework drive this ecological transition in sports? I'd like to highlight 5 principles that could be maybe applicable also to other initiatives that you might want to take part in, and also to encourage you to get to know the initiative, contact us both as a sport organization and as a city to learn more. So first pillar, the initiative has been created with sport and for sport. Already during the consultation, many sport organizations have been involved in the setting up of the main principles. Co-creation together with sport is at the core of the initiative through the work of our working groups, through discussion and needs analysis with each of our signatories, which are at the core of this initiative. The framework is a platform for cooperation. We've heard it today from the previous speaker, but also yesterday, how important for driving this positive change, environmental sustainability collaboration between sectors is. To date, we have 43 signatories. You can see the numbers on the screen. We've got signatories ranging from the International Olympic Committee, international federations, but also clubs, events, professional leagues and circuits. We're hoping to welcome new signatories to the framework very soon and to reach higher numbers in the coming years. The second pillar of our framework is the commitment and a direction of travel that is provided to the sports sector. And those are the 4 principles that you can see outlined on the screen. We're asking our signatories to contribute, to take those principles and commit to them, but not only to commit, but also to act. Of course, that's at the core of the framework. Act upon the commitment by assessing their state of play, making a plan and implementing. Jamie has presented how World Rugby, which is one of our signatories, and we have some of the IF's signatories also in the audience, how they've actually taken up those 4 principles and used them as the direction forward for their strategies and action plan on environmental sustainability. And to bring in somewhat an element of reporting, we ask our signatories to report annually. We will be running this exercise for the first time this year, and we hope to learn from it for the years to come. Pillar number 3, global goals, local action. The reporting that I just outlined is not done just for the sake of the framework and to help the signatories, even though this is very, very important. The reporting exercise is there not to be just the stick, but to really help signatories advance. The whole framework is inscribed in larger frameworks, and in particular, it contributes directly to the global biodiversity framework that has been launched last year. And just by a way of example, the target number 12 refers to urban biodiversity. And this is one of the areas that our signatories, and that's a big part of sports organizations being active in cities, how they can actually contribute to increasing biodiversity, increasing the nature spaces and their quality in urban settings. And then, of course, all this is linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. Pillar number 4. We are not leaving our signatories, and our partners and other stakeholders just do their thing without any assistance and help. So the 4th pillar of this international initiative as an engine for ecological transition is the support that we have the possibility to provide to the sports sector and co-create together with them. We're working with signatories such as World Rugby on specific guidance. We're trying to help with specific challenges of any given sport or event. We are sportifying, as Jamie said, rugbyfying, so we're trying to sportify existing knowledge and tools from the world of environment and nature. We're building case studies, putting together best practices to share with a larger audience, and we will be launching also training for sports and beyond next year. And the last pillar, and perhaps the one that I would like to really stress here is what we're trying to do is to break silos and bring the sectors together to learn from each other, to contribute to one another's goals, and to achieve those big, big overarching goals that you had seen on the screen before. This is exemplified already by the partnership, the organizations together. You can see them on the bottom of the slide. We're encouraging and enabling cooperation between sports, ranging from water sports to outdoors to indoors. There's always something then sport organizations can learn from each other, but also as the environmental sector, what we can learn from them. We're also targeting sport organizations of all levels, all territories around the world. And last point, we would like to and are already encouraging cooperation with third stakeholders outside of the world of sport. Some point that I raised at the very beginning, cross-sectorial cooperation is absolutely key to this ecological transition. And last slide or last point that I would like to introduce you to, it's the role of the IUCN in this whole initiative. And that's exactly the pillar that we're trying to push forward, cross-sectorial cooperation. The International Union for Conservation of Nature is the oldest and the largest environmental union in the world. You can see the numbers on the screen. We're just celebrated 75 years. We have 1,400 members, a new category of members, city governments and regional governments have been launched a couple of years ago, and we have the privilege to have, for example, the city of Paris as one of our members, but other members range from national government and agencies to non-governmental organizations working on nature protection and restoration, and also indigenous peoples' organizations. We work with 15,000 experts around the world. So any issue that you might be facing related to nature protection and restoration, I'm sure that in this network of 15,000 experts, we would be able to find one or two who could help you out. And we're active with projects in which the union is involved in 160 countries. Within the Sports for Nature framework, as I've mentioned, we're the secretariat, and our biggest job is this matchmaking, bringing sports also locally together with local environmental organizations and helping the environmental organizations, for example, to raise awareness to a public that they would normally not be able to reach with their messages, and on the other hand, bring the expertise from the environmental sector to sports, because we can't ask of sport organizations with their limited resources to have the expertise on nature, but just bringing the two together makes absolutely sense for both sides. In the interest of time, I will skip the last two slides, which you can hopefully see in the presentation afterward, and I would like to leave you with this quote, which I think describes very well the situation in which we are and the importance nature plays in and for sport. Thank you very much for your attention.
Jana, thank you very much. One point I wanted to pick up, you said that sport has got an enormous potential to make an impact, which I'm sure we all agree. And we've looked at events, we've looked at the contracts, binding the LOCs. We haven't talked about athletes. Is there an example of a signatory of yours that has used athletes effectively? And I know it's really difficult because by their purpose and what they're doing, it's hard to get athletes' attention. But they've obviously got so much sort of punch through, if you can get them to engage, that they are really part of that potential. And as we've said, it's a collective effort. Is there an example of a signatory of yours that has effectively used that athlete power?
I think there are several examples. One would be the ocean race, or in general water sports. So World Sailing and Ocean Race, I think, have been very exemplary in their environmental sustainability work, but also in involving their athletes. But it's not a sort of one-way relationship. The athletes, and we can see it in the media more and more, are becoming much more vocal. Perhaps not in all sports, not in all territories, but especially those who practice their sports outdoors, be it skiers, snowboarders, or water sport athletes, are really raising their voices. So what I see as an important point in the relationship is that the sport organizations are ready to support their athletes when they would like to raise their voices. This is something that we would like to work on as well with the framework. We have a working group that focuses on the principle 4 of our framework, which is all about education, advocacy, and communications. And this is where we would like to work on also the relationship between sports organizations and athletes. And furthermore, next year we will be launching something that we call the Sports for a Nature campaign. And part of this campaign will be an ambassadors network, in which we would like to involve both high-level athletes and athletes who might have a wide reach in their communities, but might not be the top world stars.
Yeah, athletes as ambassadors feels like a real piece of potential for sport and what we can deliver. Thank you very much. Viviane, I think we can stay here, yeah. Okay. And it was particularly as we are in your house, please stay. And Viviane, you can perhaps give us some perspective from a national federation point of view. I know that you've got a lot of stuff going on, which we can share with the audience.
Yes, of course. As the French Tennis Federation, we have a strategy, a sustainable strategy based on 3 pillars: inclusion, environment, and raising awareness. These pillars, we try to implement them in all our territories, tennis clubs, local events, but also in the major events we organize, including Roland Garros, of course, or Rolex Paris Masters. We think that we indeed have a role with our stakeholders as a federation, an educational role with especially the young fans. Within the territories, the way we worked to implement this strategy, and especially the environmental part, is it's perhaps the first thing, it's a financial support for all sustainable equipment in the Tennis Federation. We have 7,000 clubs, and we support financially, progressively, sustainable equipment. We have a new label, a sustainable club label, that encourage clubs to be more sustainable in all the way of sustainability. We have trophies financed by the benefits of the Charity Day of Roland Garros, and the trophies rewards the clubs having actions in terms of environment or solidarity. So all those tools, and we have the new tools, it's ecological tennis fresque, very important for us. This fresque is deployed in the territories, but it's also presented in our events like Roland Garros, and it shows the impact of the practice of sports over environment, over nature, and it's very important for us to show the impact and what solution we can find to reduce the impact. And to finish with Roland Garros, we work on a lot of pillars, and perhaps I will not explain everything because that has been said, but we work on sustainable transport, of course, on sustainable food with an alimentation food plan. We work on renewable energy for reduction of waste, especially the fight against single-use plastic. And we work on biodiversity. We have a biodiversity program with the south of France, the Région Sud, PACA, to reforest forests being impacted by climate change and to adapt those forests in terms of fauna and flora. So all these levels of actions, it's with the local institutions, the city of Paris. We work with, we have signed the Paris climate charter to just be align our objectives. We work with the framework of UN climate change. We work with the Ministry of Sport, which helps all event organizers to be more sustainable. So it's a global work, collective work, and we exchange a lot with all federations to improve this objective.
And do you find that this work that you're engaged with in terms of sustainability and the actions you're taking, does that have an impact on staff engagement within the federation?
Yes, of course, yes, and we work on this too. But the fact that we work all the year long to be more sustainable, we have a lot of groups inside the staff. The fact that we work on our responsible furnishers, responsible supply, responsible sponsoring. The sustainable sponsorship is very important for us. So we work with all the teams, and it's like a common goal for everybody here.
And in terms of sponsors, which is something that Arno was talking about, do you feel a push from sponsors as well to do more in this space?
Yes, I've been on this job for 10 years, and the things have really changed. At the beginning, we were trying to have sponsors with us, but now we all know, and sponsors know that it's strategic. So we work on sustainable activations with 80% of our sponsors. It's an objective for us. In terms of social activities or environmental activities, it's very important. But we just can do it with our sponsors. We will never do anything without them.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Jamie, can I come back to you on the staff engagement point from an international federation point of view? And clearly you've been doing more and more in this space. And I wonder, has that had an impact on how staff engage with it and with their work in general?
Yes, I mean, the organisation, as I mentioned, has changed. I've been with the Federation since 2008. When I joined, there were a staff headcount of about 60. At the beginning of 2022, we were about 130 staff. And then, as I mentioned, the business transformation model that we've undertaken over the last year and a half, we're now over 300 staff. So we have a lot of new people in the building. Some people are new to rugby, but some people are coming from multi-sport, mega event backgrounds as well, such as the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, FIFA or UEFA tournaments. So it used to be a case of I had to go around, and I should say I've only been in this particular role since January of last year. I used to have to go around and chase people and say, I need this, can you do that, help me with this. But as we started to embed it within the organisation, make it more part of the narrative, featuring it at town hall events, all staff conferences, and embedding it in the way that we do business, it's helped bring staff along. Sometimes it's popular and everyone's on board. Other times it's not popular. We removed everybody's waste bins from under their desk and put in proper recycling facilities. So it meant that people had to start thinking about the waste that they were generating. But there was a positive. They had to get up from their desk and move and put things in the bin. So it doesn't happen overnight. You do need some champions within the organisation. It's great if you can find people who are passionate about it, who volunteer to support, as opposed to their manager saying, you have to sit on this committee or I want you to do that. So there's a lot more to do as well in terms of education. But now people are coming to me and saying, you're the sustainability person. What can I do to help, or how does this impact my role?
Thank you. Arno, same question for you. Did you find as an LOC that it bound people together, that had an impact on sort of staff motivation?
Yeah, in fact, the element which is funny when you are in an organizing committee is then you are like a startup. At the beginning you are 5, then 20, 100, 300, and now again 20. So in fact, when you start, the element which is easy is that it's more easy to sensibilize your staff because you are not a big number, even if you are a pilgrim, to try to sensibilize all people in all the subject of an organizing committee, broadcast, media, hospitality, all the subject and all the functional area that you can have in an organizing committee. After, it's more easy when you have the existing policy or the existing tender, because you have some rules which are existing in your organizing committee to say you can do that, and here are the level you can be you need to reach. With my personal experience inside the organizing committee, is that we have a lot of young people, in fact, in the organizing committee. Of course, young people in the staff, plus we have something like 1,500 apprentices which participated to the Rugby World Cup. And I know that, I don't know if it's a difference, but they are really aware about this subject. We understand that it's some personal subject for them also. Right. And it's more easy to mobilize them with this positioning instead of just doing their job as a can-do everywhere.
Right. Thank you. Peter, one for you, if I may. We're talking about collective responsibilities and the role that everybody has to play. And I know you were in Rotterdam for many years doing similar work, and you spoke about cooperating with other cities nationally. And I wonder what you think the sort of the collective city's role could be in sort of raising standards and raising requirements on sports and sporting events, whether there's a role for collective action amongst cities.
I think it's very important to share knowledge. Mostly when you start with an event, you think this is the first time, this is very unique. It isn't. If you talk to, for example, we also hosted the ocean race for 3 times, once finished, two times a stopover. First thing we did was talking with Aarhus, with a similar city in Denmark. How did you manage this? And they brought us, for example, the solution of water tapping points. Now we implemented it in our strategy for in the requirements for the World Championships, and also the kind of regulations and the ambitions we have for climate neutral in 2030. It's the same ambition as, for example, Rotterdam or Amsterdam or Antwerp. Then it's very important to talk with them, not only in perspective of the events, but also, for example, your sports facilities. How do you make them sustainable? What are smart solutions? What are no-brainers? And it's better to inform before. It also saves costs. And I think sharing knowledge and learning from each other is the best way to find good solutions. And this forum, for example, is a good example of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my thought, that having people here, we can be sort of optimistic that there is sharing of knowledge and raising of expectations. Do we have any questions from the audience, please? Come on, there must be one or two. Isabella, thank you.
So Isabella from the UCI had a question for Jamie and rugby. Was wondering how involved or whether the sponsors were at all involved in terms of developing any of the initiatives or supporting the federation in terms of implementing the sustainability strategy. So because we're doing the same work internally and trying to see how we can engage with sponsors more.
Thanks, Isabella, for that. Yes, the sponsors, as I mentioned earlier, they had started to ask questions of us. And you can tell sometimes with different sponsors, is this just a box-ticking exercise? Are they doing it to provide a compliance response or a due diligence response for somebody? But it's when the partners start to, and potential partners, engage you. And for instance, one of our partners, MasterCard, invited us to make a disclosure on the carbon disclosure platform. So there was a great opportunity for us to test ourselves, to test the information that we held internally, to see, were we having an impact. In the first year, it was just one partner asked us. In year 3, 2 partners asked us. In year 4, 3 partners asked us. So we could start to see this demand and expectation from the partners. Another one of our worldwide partners, Capgemini, have been supporting us as well as in developing the women's game, but also with our environmental objectives around carbon reporting, where we've done a lot of work with them on developing a sustainable supply chain and policy and framework to go with that, as well as a sustainable events reporting tool. So that's something that we can put across the organization. Again, it has to be usable, but it has to be scalable. So that's in the process of development. So more and more the partners, and we will be going to market as well for new partners with the sustainable approach and looking for sustainable suppliers and for, as Arno mentioned, some specifics if we're looking for a carbon reporting partner or something like that.
I know the question was not for me, but maybe I can complete what you said, Jamie. I think as an organizing committee, there is 2 levels of sponsor, the worldwide partners, as you say, and the local sponsor. But for the 2, the subject is how they are a sponsor of the event. And a lot of the sponsors are totally involved in the delivery also of the tournament, such as the Olympic Games. And the subject is, with their specificities, their skills, their experience, how they can be as responsible as they can in the functional area where they deliver. You speak about Capgemini, it's an example. So it's their role as a delivery. The second part is how they can be involved on the other subject, and it's additional subject. For us, as an organizing committee, it's extra money we have also, which was interesting to deliver also the CSR project, but all the party and stakeholders are happy at the end.
Great. Thank you very much, and I think we're just about out of time. In fact, we're a tiny bit over, so thank you for your patience. And if you have more questions, I'm sure our panelists will be really pleased to field them informally over coffee.
Thank you very much, Martin. And this was such an interesting discussion with those experts. But now we're going to a very important time together. It's the marketplace